Well, I mean, these places that sell trips, I mean, you're going to be having some problems if you're, hey, we have a trip scheduled for the Eagles to play, whoever on a Sunday afternoon, and that game gets flexed to Monday night. I mean, you pay for that trip in advance. I mean, we all know these outlets that are out there, Philly Sports Trips and Green, they all have these things where you go on in April to pay for that trip. And if you get that thing moved, it's going to be a nightmare. But hey, the NFL, they don't care as much about the fans in attendance as they do the fans who are watching television.
Not even close. And it's because of the TV pays the bills. I did the math, by the way, Jody. 62% of the NFL's revenue comes from TV rights fees. 62%.
Not surprised. If anything, I'd say if I'm surprised if you said, did you think it would be more or less? I would actually said more. I would have thought that it was slightly
I guess
more than
that. The big question is that a sustainable business model with the way television?
We were talking about that earlier this week.
Right?
I talked about that a lot. And here's the thing people don't understand: of that 62%, the other revenue is fueled by the TV. If you take away the television aspect, you're not selling merchandise, you're not selling tickets, you're not selling out. People don't realize how powerful the television executives are in professional sports. It's not Roger Goodell. I say it all the time. It's not Adam Silver. The most powerful people in sports are the TV executives signing these checks.
I don't know. So David Sampson, who was the president of the Marlins, he has a podcast. I had him on my show last week because I wanted to try to get a president of a team's perspective on how they view things. And he talked about how in baseball, a lot of these rule changes came because the executives of the television executives wanted the game to be faster.
Yeah.
It's not that baseball said, we have a problem here. No, the TV executive said, your problem is your game's on my screen too long. Move it along. So hence the pitch clock was formed because the TV executives wanted to get the game pace moving faster.
Yeah, the tail does wag the dog in a lot of broadcast respects in more sports than just football. But I will say this, and I think John disagreed with me, so we're not going to agree on this today. John Mara, the owner of the Giants, I think is actually a really good owner if you're a New York Giant fan. He doesn't always hire the right coach. He doesn't always hire the right GM. I'm not saying he's infallible by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he really does care about the Giants and Giants fans. And he was as outspoken, if not the most outspoken, for we're not giving flex capability to Amazon because I'm not going to do that to my fans. I'm not going to let my fans just get screwed because Amazon jumps in and says, oh, we got to have this game. And my fans are planning to go on a trip with I really do believe that when he said that. I have a specific amount of respect for John Mara because of that. And mark my words, at some point, now this was in advance, this was speculation that Amazon could get the flex. At some point, there's going to be an owner who says ESPN, because ESPN's going to flex out of their game, and they're going to do it twice. And NBC's going to flex out of their game. And I'm sorry, if it keeps happening to you, you're the laughing stock of the NFL. If you're scheduled for a Sunday night game and you're so lousy that teams want out of broadcasting you, broadcast outlets don't want any part of you, yeah, you're getting spit in the face. And there's going to be an owner who's going to stand up and go, hey, I'm bigger than the exec at Amazon. I'm sorry. Screw him. He's not rescheduling my game. We've given away too much of the power.
Don't say screw Jeff Bezos. You're liable to end up in a ditch.
Jeff Bezos questions on that, Jody, as you double bird me, I thought
that was John Mara for ESPN.
Yeah,
sorry,
the old
ESPN.
Stone Cold double bird. Can you have a multiple flex in the same weekend? Could Sunday Night Football flex out of their game and Monday Night Football flex out of their game.
Oh, that's
and now
what
you
it's scheduled as of right now.
Right, but
NBC's got flex right up to the end of the season.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So like week 13, they've got the Bills and Cleveland, and Deshaun Watson's hurt, and they're 3-10, and the Bills are struggling along because someone got hurt there, and they're 7-5. And they don't want that game anymore. They get rid of that game, bring in another game. And then Monday Night Football has a similar situations with, Pittsburgh playing the Chargers. And they're like, well, we don't want this game either. There's only so many games that have compelling matchups at that stage of the season, sometimes because there's so much parity. Everybody's 7-4. Everybody's 9-8. Everybody's 8-6. It's a lot like that. So it's going to be interesting to see.
And I'll say this to Jody's point,
I agree with Jody at some point, though. Somebody's going to get, hey, this is ridiculous. Because the fans are going to, at some point, you're going to get that game where there's a big market team and the fans travel well, and then they get moved. And it might be the Eagles whose hotel things are booked, and you get these people riled up that said, I spent my paycheck on this game.
But there's certain teams, I'll say there's certain teams, the Eagles among them, they're not going to move for that reason. They're relevant. Even if they're having a little bit of a distant, Dallas would be.
Well, I will say this, John. I would say this. They might move the Eagles from an afternoon game to a night game where they're a 1 o'clock Sunday game, and they get, hey, we want Eagles on Monday Night Football. And you have to go from a Sunday one to a.
Well, yeah, that's more likely that way. But to Jody's point, here's what I'll say: if some owner's going to be upset down the road about being moved because they become a laughing stock, I think that takes care of yourself. If you're getting moved, you're already a laughing stock because that means your team is awful. They're not moving them if the team is relevant. So
I don't.
John, isn't it an additional spit in the face? Anybody can look up the standings, and if you're 3-10, you're 3-10, and there's no way around that, and you've reached laughing stock status. But if in addition to that, a network stands up and goes, yeah, you go back and play it Monday at 1.
Yeah, but I would, playing devil's advocate, I would say, because some of these owners, let's be honest, there's owners, and Philadelphia fans are lucky enough to have a very good owner who try to win. And there are other owners that it's not as important. And maybe that eggs them on to be a
Doesn't Jerry Jones try to win every single year? Sure. When was the last time he won?
Yeah, but Dallas is not in this conversation because
you can make a case that if you're 3-10, that you don't want to be on prime time because you want to lower your level of visibility.
Because you're already a laughing stock. That's my point. But in Jerry tries to win. Jerry hasn't won. That's a different discussion. But Dallas is relevant, and that'll piss Eagles fans off. But Mike's right. Dallas is number one. Dallas is number one over Philadelphia. Dallas is number one over Kansas City. You can argue it shouldn't be that way. You can argue till the hills come home. It is that way. I can't even explain why it is that way. But it's so ingrained in America as a society. The Cowboys are the Cowboys. I'm sorry. They are. There are certain teams, the New York Yankees, the Los Angeles Lakers.
It shows us
Cowboys are that team in the NFL.
It shows us one thing, that branding works. So if you want to advertise, that would be a example 1A of why branding works. The Cowboys haven't been relevant in many people's lifetime, and yet they are the number one draw on television because people are basically sheep.